You have an idea, probably a podcast, a newsletter, something, a Substack that has been living in your head rent-free and probably, if we're being honest, in your Google Drive for way too long. And you keep telling yourself that timing is a thing, that capacity is a thing, that when things calm down, will be better. And in today's episode, I'm going to tell you what's actually keeping you there, and I'm going to tell you how to break that cycle. Hello, my love. Welcome to Brand Confidence for Creatives. Are you feeling stuck in a cycle of overthinking, trying to build your brand? I'm Eugenia, but you can call me E. I'm a marketing and brand coach, and I spent years stuck in the cycle of researching, hesitating, and hiding until I got clear on my voice and my message. In this podcast, I'll guide you through the strategies you need to get clear on what you want to say, build a personal brand, and create consistent magnetic marketing. If you ever thought, I know I have something to say, I just don't know how to say it, you are in the right place. So grab your coffee and let's dive in. Hey, before we go into this episode, I want to take a minute to ask you for something. On June 24th, two massive earthquakes hit Venezuela. It was back to back, 39 seconds apart. And these earthquakes have been the strongest the country has seen in over 100 years. And honestly, unless you're Venezuelan, it's hard to fully get the scale of it. We are talking thousands dead, thousands more injured, tens of thousands still missing. Almost 6,000 buildings were damaged or destroyed. Tens of thousands of people now need shelter, they need water, medical care, just to make it through the week. And at the time of this recording, it's been a week since this happened. And a week in the news cycle feels like a lifetime. The headlines already moved on. And we understand. But on the ground, families are still digging through rubble with their hands. Hospitals are overwhelmed. People are on the street, sleeping, without food, without clean water, without anywhere to sleep. So this one is personal for me. And my friend Liliana runs JQ Foundation. It's a family-owned 501c3 organization here in Miami that normally does sustainability work. And the second this happened, they dropped everything and pivoted to relieve medical aid, food, water, filters, shelter. I've watched them operate. I know where this money goes. I know that they not only get the supplies, but they also get them shipped. And they are also able to make sure that they reach actual people, they solve actual needs. So here's my ask, my love. $5, 50, 500, whatever you can, it makes a difference. It reaches people in need. And the link to donate is in the show notes, but you can go straight to jqfoundation.org. That's jqfoundation.org and hit donate. And if you can give right now, share this episode. That's huge generosity as well, because someone in your circle can. Venezuela needs us to keep praying, to keep paying attention, and let's not be this a one-week story. I launched my first podcast in Spanish in 2017, then in English in 2020. And after a couple of months, I completely burned out. That podcast wasn't growing. And I walk away thinking like, okay, podcasting is just not for me. I just don't have it. I don't have the talent. But I never fully left it alone because I was a podcast manager. So I spent years watching from the sidelines. First, obviously, as a podcast manager, as a podcast producer, content organizer, then marketing strategies to entrepreneurs who had podcasts. And I thought I was kind of like the sports coach who never won the championship, like good at coaching it, not meant to play it, like fine with it. And then I launched this podcast. And I did it with my own framework that I created from so many experiences from, years of experience. I followed my own method, what made sense for my vision, my position in my life, and most importantly, for my voice. And that resulted in a launch that took me in 3 days to the top 40 on Apple Podcasts, 30 countries that I reached within 3 months. I even was the number 7 podcast in Uruguay. They didn't even speak English as a first language. So it's insane to me to think that a podcast was ranking in a region without, like, the first language is Spanish. And here's what I wanted to hear. I honestly wish I had launched this podcast earlier. This was a before and after for, yes, my business, but also my confidence, my vision, my purpose, my sense of what's possible for me. And as a little teaser, actually, right now, there's something else I'm turning over in my head, another project, and I keep having to come back to the same method, which is exactly what this episode is about. So, because I'm living through it and I've lived through it before myself with my clients, I see this gap in having all of these ideas, but not having them move forward. And usually people think, and you may think, that it is a capacity problem, truly, or a planning problem, that you need a better planning system. And it's not, because a lot of it can get done even by brain dumping and taking your ideas to ChatGPT and have ChatGPT organize them for you and give you a plan. So there are the three things that are actually going on for you. First, you are overwhelmed by options, and all the advice you find feels so generic, right? So you understand what's being said, it makes sense, but it doesn't account for your specific situation, your reputation, your constraints. So it never feels fleshed out enough for you to move forward. Number two, there's this fear that maybe you're not fully, like, naming or owning. And it is that launching something bold means increased exposure, more visibility, more criticism, more scrutiny. Like, when we open ourselves up to this type of vulnerability, obviously there's so many opportunities to come, and there's an emotional risk to it. But also, when you are making a bold public statement and you're saying, this is what I stand for, and you already have a reputation to protect, that is the real risk. The third reason this is happening is that there is this forever idea that becomes a trap. Because then you're not just afraid of launching, you're afraid of the maintenance. And then with this idea, starting a podcast doesn't feel like a project anymore. It feels like a lifetime commitment. And then you start thinking, okay, I'm committing to this for the rest of my life. The timing has to be right. And then the result becomes a loop. The idea goes back in the drawer for when the timing is right, for when you understand how things apply to your specific situation, for when being more visible and more public becomes less risky, when you have more emotional capacity to do it, and whenever you're ready to make this lifetime commitment. And in Atomic Habits, James Clear, this is such a wonderful book. And to me, it was super valuable for reasons that maybe are different than most people. And it's the fact that he explains that habits run on a 4-step loop. So the steps are cue, so something triggers you; craving, so because of that trigger for that situation. So he says, in the circumstance of eating, something is a cue of, okay, it's 4 p.m., there's a craving of having a sweet, then you have a response of going get a sweet, and then there's a reward where you feel calm, and that, like, you can move forward through your day. So it is a loop, right? Because then you have the cue, you get the craving, you respond, and then you get the reward. So whenever you get the cue, then you are going to end up having the reward. And something super important that James Clear adds is that the cue alone doesn't produce behavior. So it's not like, oh, I get 4 p.m. slump and I eat. There has to be a craving first. So there's like a step in between your cue and your behavior. And that is a real felt desire that you have. So without that craving, the thing that you want to do, the cue is just whatever. Like, I'm just tired. It is what it is. Then what makes a habit become a habit is the craving part of it. So let's apply it to the world of business. Here's the loop. You'll see someone launch something. So for example, let's say someone on your feed is launching their new podcast. And you feel it because you've been thinking about it maybe in the past, and then you're like, oh, podcast is saturated. But then someone launched a podcast and you're like, oh wait, I want it. So that is the craving. Like, I want that. Like, oh my gosh, their podcast launch did amazing. And that craving run straight into overwhelm. So your response isn't action. Your response isn't, okay, I'm done with it. Let me grab my microphone, let me record, and in 30 minutes, my podcast is out. Your response to this craving of like, oh my gosh, I want it too. I want to have that visibility or whatever that means for you. Your response is planning. So you either plan it yourself like on your notebook, or you open Claude, you get a plan and it looks like a CVS receipt. And then you save it to your Google Drive, you put your notebook away, and you get the reward of feeling like, oh, amazing, I did something. I moved forward with my goal. And it is a wonderful illusion, but you really haven't. And then the cycle resets for the next time the algorithm chooses to feed you something that has made you engage, that has made you watch, that has made you overanalyze. Another person launching a podcast, another person launching a Substack, another person doing something that is going to cause a reaction on you and is going to give you that cue of, I want to. So here's how you change that response. Before any plan, before any tool, before any consultant, there are two important questions. Number one, what is it that you are trying to create? And describe it. Don't just go into the specs and the technical details. Tell me about your vision. If you dream about the version of this that's already working, how does it look like? What are people saying about it? How does it feel to have it out in the world? And number two, what do you need this thing to do for you? So, what does success look like in 6 months? What problem does it solve in your business? Until those questions are answered, every plan is going to be noise. The CVS receipt happens because you're building a plan without knowing what you're actually building towards. Your goals of launching something don't fail because you don't have all the technical skills. That fails because you are not attaching that to a vision that's honest enough to pull you through. One that's yours, one that matches your voice, matches who you are, matches what you think, matches your uniqueness, not just what other people did to get there, following someone else's blueprint, but leaving your soul completely out of it. When you start from that internal clarity, the plan stops feeling like a project you're forcing yourself through and like trying to fit into someone else's model. You start knowing what matters. Like you know what to cut, you know what to do when the day is hard because it matches you. It matches your vision. So start with two questions this week. Don't go straight into planning or finding the right tools or AI agents. Just ask yourself those two questions. Write them down, answer them honestly. And if after that you get your answers and you're ready to move forward, you don't have to just go and do it alone. This is the kind of work I'm best at, and I'm so proud to be the one helping you take this vision to the finish line. The Big Brand Moment has 5 founding spots. Come talk to me. The link to chat is in the show notes. And as always, I believe in you. I see you back here very, very soon. Un beso. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you loved it, don't keep it to yourself. Send it to a friend who's also trying to grow their brand without losing themselves in the process. And if you want to make my day, drop a quick review on Apple Podcasts. Seriously, it means the world to me. And I know that this show is helping you show up with confidence and clarity. See you back here soon for the next episode. Un beso.